Okay, everyone, please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations so that those who make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ryan.
Okay, before we get into tonight's agenda, the mayor has an announcement he'd like to give. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Jim. Yes, there's actually two things that I'd like to announce tonight. I will be creating a citizen advisory board to work with the police department. This board will be made up of 7 individuals, and it will be more of a proactive type board than a reactive board. And I'm looking forward to working closely with members of this board. And by the way, the board is made up by a number of different parts of the diversity within our city. So we'll be accepting applications for the board memberships. But also, I feel that this is going to address some of the issues that we're currently dealing with, and also be a way that we could more or less have a build of trust, and also the board can have a communication between the police and the citizens. Secondly, we will be looking at seeking funds for body cams for our police officers. I spoke with Chief Coffey today and other members of the police force, and we feel this is something that we want to pursue. So we'll be looking at funding, as I said, to pay for body cams for our police officers.
Okay, and Mayor, you have met with the police administration and the PBA on this matter as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I have. We had a meeting today, and we are all in agreement that this is the way that we should go.
Okay. All right. Glad to hear that. Thank you. Any questions from council members? I have some supporting documentation I'd like to read into the record as well on this, but if anybody has any questions for the mayor? No? Okay.
Mayor, Bill, if I may, real quick, Mayor, is this something that you will appoint and council will approve or not approve?
No, this does not need the approval of city council, Mike.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? Questions? This is relative to the mayor's announcement, and this is from the police PBA. This is the PBA. It's addressed to City Council and Mayor Brown, and it's relevant to this very matter here, so I feel it's timely that we just read this into the record right at this particular point. And it reads, on behalf of the Wilkes-Barre Police Benevolent Association, we would like to first extend our hope you and your families are staying healthy during this pandemic. We received Councilwoman Gilbert McBride's correspondence and proposed ordinance last week. We then forwarded the proposed ordinance to our labor attorney, Tony Caputo, who's in the process of reviewing it accordingly. With that being said, we are willing to discuss the proposed review board with all involved in the future. However, due to current challenges stemming from the pandemic, as well as working with organizers to ensure our protests remain peaceful, we ask you to delay any formal action on the review board. Our focus is the safety of our residents, visitors, and officers. Plus, we feel more time would give all stakeholders a chance to discuss the matter further and decide the best course of action for people who live in, work in, or visit the city of Wilkes-Barre. In a limited review of police review boards, as well as the language in Councilwoman Gilbert McBride's proposed ordinance, we saw components that caused us some concern, and as a result, we feel need more discussion. Our goal is to avoid unnecessary lawsuits against the city or costly labor disputes. The Wilkes-Barre Police Benevolent Association's position is there's already an internal affairs component in our standard operating procedures that has proven to be successful in handling any complaint raised by a resident or matter of the public. The chief of police, as well as the sitting mayor, a civilian elected by the residents of the city, would be able to review the findings of any internal investigation and take any necessary action. The mayor would also have the opportunity to have the investigation reviewed by his administrative staff, which includes civilian administrators as well as the city solicitors or outside counsel. Furthermore, a civilian neutral arbitrator would oversee any contractual challenge to discipline, etc., arising out of any internal investigation as outlined in our collective bargaining agreement. Allegations also could be forwarded outside law enforcement agencies for additional investigation, as has been done in the past. Other measures like the implementation of body cameras or more programs and initiatives designed to increase our dialogue and interaction with the community are welcomed by our organization. Furthermore, I believe the governor also is proposing a citizens advisory board, which can be examined as well. Just let me reiterate, the PBA is willing to discuss any initiative designed to enhance the relationship between our officers and the community. We are honored to serve and protect. We simply request we do not take any official action on the review board in the immediate future. Respectfully, James Conmee, PBA President. Okay. Questions on that?
Bill, is that something we'll have a copy of, please?
Yes, we will get a copy emailed out to you ASAP to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, and any questions on what a citizen advisory board actually is, what its mission is, its goals?
Well, Bill, if you can give us a light oversight, what exactly that will be and how will it start to finish?
As Mr. Conmee stated in his letter, it's designed to improve relationships between the police and the community. It's not an investigative board. It will work closely with the police administration to bring forward any initiatives that would improve relationships between the police and the community. It's not designed to divide, accuse, or investigate. It's not its purpose. Its purpose is to work with the police department in a proactive manner, that being before anything does occur versus a reactive matter, if something occur and investigated afterwards. The department does have processes in place that effectively can do that. I have the utmost confidence, and I know the mayor has also said this in the past, in the police administration to handle any matters that come before it. The process is very clear, outlined, up to accreditation standards, and I personally am comfortable with it. And as Mr. Conmee stated, this is one of the recommendations coming out of the governor's office through MOPEC that municipalities follow through with it. It's extremely proactive, it's very positive in nature, and gives the community a chance to interact with the police administration anytime. It doesn't wait for something to occur. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to be ahead of the curve. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I think it's a great move. Really very happy about that. Questions, comments on that? Okay, if you need any more information on what that is, I can send out some information to you. It's from the International Association of Chiefs of Police as to the role of the Citizen Advisory Board, how it functions, and what it is they hope to accomplish. Okay, if there are no further questions, Mr. Ryan, I'll give it back to you.
Do you want to read that over?
What's that noise?
No, I'm going to hold off on that for right now. Thank you, James.
Okay, good afternoon and welcome to today's combined session of City Council. The meeting will start with a work session. The regular session will immediately follow. During the work session, which is the first part of this combined meeting, there is no public comment, so please hold your calls. During the regular session, which is the second part of the meeting, it will be announced when the phone line is open for public comment. So please hold your calls until that announcement that the phone line is open to the public. Thank you. On the council agenda, there are two items. One is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the Office of Community Development as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual. And number two is a resolution approving the disposition of records from the Redevelopment Authority as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual. And that Municipal Records Manual, as I always state, is a state manual that's devised by the state, and the records destruction and standards for keeping records is set by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. They have the authority over that, and that is what we follow when we're referring to the Municipal Records Manual. Okay, that's it for council's resolutions. Any questions, council? Okay, Mayor Brown?
Yes, we're asking for your authorization, enter into an agreement with the Air Cleaning Systems Incorporated for the purchase of an emergency vehicle exhaust extraction system. That'd be the amount of $43,900. And this is for the Hollenbach Fire Department. What we found is that when we start up the fire engine, the exhaust stays in the building itself, and this will extract those exhaust fumes. So it's much safer for our fire department personnel.
Questions on that? No. I do have one email question, Mayor, that was sent in. Pardon me? Regular session. Okay, we'll hold up on that. All right. Thank you for the reminder on that. I appreciate it. And
If council has no objections, as is usually the case when it's a light agenda and relatively simple as this one is, council has no objections, all resolutions plus approval of meeting minutes will be combined into a consent agenda and voted on as such. By unanimous consent, it will be forwarded to the regular session. Again, if there are no objections from council. Any objections, comments from council?
No.
All right, thank you.
okay, we'll go through our council members. Let me see if we have anything. Councilman Belisco.
Well, Bill, I'd like to congratulate you being appointed to the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission by the governor. I think that's quite the honor. There's only, what did I read, 20 members in the state. Is that true?
That is correct.
And you proved your worth. I know you've been in communication with the chief, the union PBA agents, mayor, administration. You proved your worth just on this recent police advisory committee. Thank you, Bill, and I think you're going to do good and make us all proud in Wilkes-Barre here.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
Thank you, Bo. The other stuff I have is for Charlie, I guess. Charlie's here? Charlie here?
Yes,
Charlie, 64 Cary Ave. It's a vacant property, high grass. I have a list of other properties, but I forgot to give you that one the other day, and I have a new list, unfortunately. But the other thing is, I was with the members of the Citizens Blight Committee, Greg Griffin, as we know, at Grumpo's a couple months ago. I've gotten a couple of reports, and I actually went and drove up there and actually saw more blight there, more litter, 2 mattresses behind the building to the left of the building, to the rear and to the left. And if it's not my understanding, it is my understanding that at one time, all the brush was cut back there. I asked if we can get back there with our DPW workers or our summer help and clean that out. I think it would help deter any further littering in that area. It seems to be a constant chase the dog's tail type thing with litter in that area. But again, I have several other things for you, Charlie. If you could take those in consideration, I will be emailing you tomorrow with 3 or 4 more I have. Thank you, Charlie. One other thing for my fellow council members, I spoke with Sam Gusto from Hanover Township Commission or Township Manager. The Division Street Bridge that's been long down is in the final stages of being finished. He said within the summer it will be done, which I'm so happy for the residents of South Wilkes-Barre and Hanover Township. We all know we all voted for the shared responsibilities of maintenance of the bridge. and it'll finally be done this summer. So I'm really looking forward to that. And so does everyone here in South Wilkes-Barre. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McCormick wanted to address one of the issues that you brought up.
Yes, Mike?
Yeah.
It turns out that's been on my radar for about a month, and yesterday, we had zoning officer, code enforcement, and health walked from Wood to Hanover. Also met with all owners of the adjoining properties, and we have a plan to address it. The cars have been taken off the properties that have been up there toward Hanover Street. They've been moved, and we have a plan to address all of that backbrush and clearing there, which we hope to proceed with or probably early next week. Now, there is a day off on Friday or on Monday for the, it's a holiday for the city. But next week, we should be out there and clearing from Wood to Hanover.
Hey, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Mayor, also. That does need to be addressed. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Mr. Marconi.
Yes, I do. I just, I have some thoughts on the Citizens Police Review Board that I'd like to share with everyone. I just want to let everyone know that, I'm listening to you. I've been out speaking with people who've been affected by this, getting their views. Also been reviewing the ordinance. I have received some calls on why the public was not involved with the making of the ordinance. And also, I believe some of us, or all of us, council did not know about all of it. I'd like to have council and the community as well have input. I just, again, my thoughts. I just think that we should all sit down as a whole to see what the people's thoughts are at this time. I have sent some emails to Charlie and Butch Fratty, and I want to thank them for taking care of some business. That is all I have right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Gilbert McBride.
Yeah, I do have a statement I would like to make, if that's okay.
Of course.
First, I want to read a couple of names to you. Terrence Crutcher, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Stephon Clark, George Floyd. Countless others whose names we do not know. All beautiful lives that are gone. Their lives matter. Their legacy matters. How they died matters. I encourage my colleagues and all those listening to say their names and read their stories. Nearly 4 years ago today, my friend Angel Giroux left me a voicemail that I still have saved on my phone and that I still listen to from time to time. In that voicemail, he stated that anytime someone in this area tries to implement something regarding diversity, they are discouraged by others and even threatened. Later that same year, Angel also spoke about the need for a civilian review board. Angel and others have approached council during public comment at our meetings, asking again and again to revisit the idea of a citizens review board. The need and the desire to build such a board is apparent and has been for a long time. So I take issue when anyone says that a review board is a knee-jerk reaction to current events. Current events rightly have pushed the need for a review board to the forefront, but this is by no means a new idea in our city. After speaking with Black and Brown folks in our community, I understand the dire, yes, dire need for this board. Make no mistake, the implementation of this board is by no way an insult or indictment against our police. While we do have good police officers that are very community oriented, we still need to recognize the need for such a board in our community. Unfortunately, now is not the time to ignore long festering issues in our community. Now is the time to finally focus on the Black community and give our community what they have been seeking for years: reform, once and for all. This ordinance is far from complete, which is why I immediately gave it the due diligence it deserves. I want input from everyone, including my colleagues, the administration, the police department, and most importantly, members of the communities who experience systemic racism firsthand. Let's all work together for real reform. In closing, I want to assure that any citizens who call in to voice their opinions and experiences as Black and Brown members of our community We will not only listen to what you have to say, but consider your words and ideas seriously. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Any comments on that? And then I agree with what you're saying about there needs to be a voice. And we think that the Citizens Advisory Committee is going to provide that particular voice. But just as importantly, my new involvement with the Training Commission, I see a lot going on at all different levels. And that's where it needs to come down. It needs to be at the federal level, the state level, and of course at the local level by us having these action committees. There's going to be reform across the board in law enforcement. We talked about that earlier with the chief and the union. It's going to come down to the state. It's going to come down to the city. It's going to come down even higher from the federal government. We know that there's going to be significant changes in how policing is accomplished. And I'm looking forward to that. I know that we are a 7 square mile city in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There needs to be widespread police reform. It should not go across the river, up the mountain, or someplace else where things are different. It has to be unilaterally the same for police across this country. I see that coming, and as you just alluded to, it's going to happen very quickly. But we have to be very methodical about what we do. We are going to get one shot at this. It's got to be right. We want to make it right for the residents of the city, our department, and everyone to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing for us. Anything else on this? Okay. All right, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, first I want to start off thanking Mayor Brown for his initiative on this Community Advisory Board. But I also at the same time want to concur with Councilwoman McBride on continuing this discussion, and I'm glad we have this dialogue going. I got 3 points I want to talk about, but first I want to congratulate you all as well, Councilman Barrett, on your appointment by the governor. That's a great honor, and we look forward to the work that you will do there. My 3 points. One, I want to thank Police Chief Coffey for his new fireworks strategy. I was appreciative that he's listening to the people and council's concerns and the meetings that we had last week. I got another one of those heart-wrenching phone calls from a woman who has a child with autism and how she just goes crazy every single night. So again, the people of Wilkes-Barre who are listening to us, please have some heart and consideration of your neighbors that have post-traumatic stress disorder or pets that are scared of loud noises or elderly or now children with autism. Please have consideration. As I said before, I have nothing against fireworks on one day, on July 4th, but every single day it's driving the people of Wilkes-Barre insane. And it's really terrible. And people really need to have heart and consideration for our neighbors on this issue. But so I thank Chief Coffey for his new strategy, and let's hope it works. And one thing I always like to hear when something doesn't work, he says, hey, we'll try something else. So we just got to keep on trying on that particular issue. Second, I promised that I would report back to you on my meeting with Sphere International on the facade for Frank Clark's. I really don't need to report complete details because you've seen it in the newspaper. I just want to thank the neighbors that live around Frank Clark's in the downtown neighborhood, the residents that came to the meeting, and for them voicing their concerns about protecting our great historical architecture. In that vein, I have submitted some amendments to zoning ordinance that is being reviewed by our city attorneys, and there will be some upcoming meetings with people who are concerned also about that as well. And third, I'd like to make a comment also on Black Lives Matters and the issues that have been coming. I'm here to listen. I will never know what it's like. Maybe I have a tiny little inkling being gay in a interracial marriage, but still, it will never compare. I will not know what it's like to walk in the shoes of a Black man. And all I can say and all I can promise is that I could put on my pair of shoes next to you and walk with you. And I'm here to listen. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of calls tonight about it. I just promise to do my best with my colleagues and the mayor and the police chief to make things as accountable and trustworthy with our police department and the African-American community in Wilkes-Barre. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. Thank you. You mentioned the fireworks. I did see that the police did cite somebody for a fireworks violation.
Yeah.
For last, I believe. And as they said they would, so that's great and much appreciate that. Okay, and I don't have anything else at this time, so we're gonna take a short adjournment here as we prepare for the regular session of council. Let's take a moment, let Kathy reset, and we'll be back.
Mhm.
Switch gears for a little bit.
Hmm?
If everybody's still with us. Kathy, whenever you're ready. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God, who presides over all things in heaven and earth, come and preside over these deliberations so that those who make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Roll call, please, Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Belusko,
Here.
Mr. Marconi,
Here.
Mrs. McBride,
Present.
Mr. Brooks.
Here.
Mr. Barrett.
Here.
Also in attendance tonight is Mayor George C. Brown, Fire Chief Jay Delaney, Administrator Charles McCormick, City Attorney Tim Henry, I did say Fire Chief Jay Delaney, right? City Attorney Tim Henry, IT Director Frank Hirschberger, Assistant City Clerk Catherine Payne, Administrative Assistant Lisa Sanfilippo. Okay, and now council will take questions, comments on agenda items only from the public by phone. The phone line is now open. Please make your calls, whoever wants to address council on agenda items. Thank you. And it is 5 minutes per call. Please keep that in mind.
We do have one email question for today's agenda. And that comes to Mr. Sam Troy, and it pertains to the fire equipment. And the question is, will an RFP have to be submitted to fund the new equipment for the fire houses? Houses is what he's saying. So an RFP will have,
No, it's co-stars.
it's co-stars, okay. Okay, so the answer from the chief and from attorney Tim Henry is it is being purchased under co-stars, the cooperative purchasing agreement, so there is no need for any bidding process there. Is that correct? Okay. All right, and we have a call. Good afternoon, your name and where you're calling from, please?
Good afternoon, with Eileen Dorsey. I'm calling from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And as a neighboring citizen, I would like to voice my support for the immediate enactment.
Just, I don't mean to stop you right now, ma'am, but this right now, we're taking calls relative to items on the council agenda. That is not on the agenda. We'll be taking calls on that very shortly, though.
Okay.
If you can call back and accepting public comment. This is only for items that are listed on the council agenda right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wait a moment or two, please. Mr. Ryan, I think you can proceed. Oh, hold on one second. Oh, in there, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, since there are no other no comments regarding the agenda items, we'll take the vote right now from council. Motion second and vote is needed. Motion?
A motion.
Mike,
Okay, Mike.
okay. Second,
I'll second.
Tony? All right, Mr. Beluska,
Yes.
Mr. Marconi,
Yes.
Mrs. McBride,
Yes.
Mr. Brooks,
Yes.
and Mr. Barrett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do you have a single ordinance or
That was it, yeah.
that you had everything all, okay.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna go back to the council members. I'm sorry. Mr. Belisco, we're back to you, sir.
Well, Tony had brought it up and I want to chime in on it with the fireworks. I thank the chief and the mayor, and Charlie for their work and Chief Delaney for their work in this. And I think it's a fantastic idea. As Tony was saying, let people with dogs, PSCD, all of these type things will help. It will help. I've been telling people about it since I was told by the mayor and John Marconi was there present at the time. I think it's fantastic and it will work. It will work as long as people call 911. Again, I thank you, Mayor and Chief Coffey. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Mike.
And on that, of course, Chief Delaney was instrumental in getting the ordinance rearranged so that it makes it basically illegal to use these Class A fireworks just about anywhere in the city. So we thank you for that as well. And I know your concerns about fire safety. Thank you, Mike. Okay, and we'll go to Mr. Marconi.
I have nothing at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Gilbert McBride?
I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Brooks?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I have nothing further. So we're going to move on to the public discussion. You do have a call there. Okay, we'll take that.
Oh,
Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please? I'm sorry. It's not on the agenda, but go ahead. You can speak.
but is this, to the meeting, are we only allowed to ask on the agenda at this point?
No, this is general discussion.
This is open discussion now?
Yes, sir. Your name?
Sam Troy, Wilkes-Barre.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I wanted to comment on two different things. First of all, when the mayor campaigned, he promised, and I'm sure you council members are clear on transparency, which is an essential component of democratic process, quality as they call it. And it's not, I don't think it's this fault or anybody in particular's fault, but with the onset of this and the way these council meetings are held, and the way the events have occurred, there's been a definite loss of transparency, a more decreasing transparency as to what's going on. And I don't think that he is responsible for what, but my point that I think the has been used as the reason for not appointing, starting a citizens advisory council. And the mayor did comment through that previous mayor, almost never came through for that. But the mayor can move this as soon as possible. And they don't even know because a certain amount of the city now is going to make things a lot worse than they want. But the true mayor, because hello?
Go ahead. We're having trouble hearing you, sir. You can speak up just a little bit, please.
You're having trouble hearing?
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about the people. I think Gilbert believe that was some sort of oversight committee in favor of. I want to emphasize my support for that, but I'm also emphasizing the need for a citizens advisory committee along the lines of agreed upon before he took office, which involves appointing certain citizens who are interested in
Commonwealth and across the country. Any true there or not?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm hoping if the mayor is in attendance today, that he could act upon this sooner than later. I'm also to emphasize the importance of the tell council. First of all, those of you who weren't aware, as chairman of the tree commission, I know that Mr. Farris, I don't know about anybody else, the other four, but I've arranged through the help of Larry Newman for the planting of a tree and commemorate the efforts of all our medical care workers who have put their lives on the line to fight the effects of COVID-19, and also the essential workers who have also on the front lines to try to. I thought this would be a simple way to honor their efforts. We have some time left here.
Sure, go ahead.
1 minute.
You do. Go ahead.
On to the next, again, I'm talking about, I wasn't sure whether any of you were aware of this, but next week the tree is scheduled to be delivered and planted on public square by Green Valley Landscaping. I'm hoping to have some sort of ceremony. To make a long story, the expenses are taken care of. But those of you who would like to participate in some sort of ceremony are certainly invited to do so, but we don't have all the details yet. My last point here, I have a minute or so left.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, I'd like to encourage, I understand the next council meeting is not for another month because of the summer protocol or whatever. That's the way they do things. But I think in light of the, we have several attorneys that you 5 council members and the mayor should get together and at least, if not more than that, in July, because we have to, unless this advisory committee is formed in the meantime, the Citizens Advisory Committee to allow us to check how the city can get out of the school crisis it did. Another one of the solutions Mayor Brown offered was to lease or sell the store rights. I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good solution, and I'm sure some of you agree with me on that. The mayor has admitted that we have a $3 or $4 million deficit on our hands. So I'm hoping that council can respond with some sort of plan to have a couple next month. Since these few meetings that we've had with the virus that are kind of a travesty, I wasn't able to get through. I was not able to get through on one of these meetings. I hope you maybe we could compensate for the lack of participation by having a little more.
Mr. Troy, I'm going to stop you there. I want to answer your questions, and I want council members to be able to answer your questions along with the mayor should he choose. We're hopeful getting to the meetings. This will be the last meeting that we're going to be holding here in this conference room in police headquarters. City Hall just opened. However, we didn't have time to advertise the new phone numbers and so on and so forth. So we will be in City Hall. We don't know if we'll all be in City Hall by the next time the next meeting comes around, but we are meeting on that to discuss the safety procedures that need to be put in place before we do actually have a council meeting in council chambers. Hopeful that we can do this and get back to some sort of normalcy. But for right now, this is what we had to do here, and we'll be going back into City Hall for our next meeting. You had Brent mentioned about a Citizens Advisory Committee. What the mayor announced today was a police advisory board. He wanted to get into that a little bit, Mayor, and answer Mr. Troy's concerns.
Yeah, Sam, you're exactly right. I am forming citizen advisory boards. The first one is going to be the one I told about tonight, where we'll be initiating a citizen advisory board. Will be made up of citizens of Wilkes-Barre. It'll be a 7-member board, and I will be selecting people from different diverse groups within the city. That is the first thing that we're going to be putting together, and it's a citizen advisory board that will be working in a proactive manner with our police department. Secondly, you had sent me an email last week about how you don't like the way that I run the city council meetings. I want to let you know, I forwarded that on to Mr. Barrett. I don't run the city council meetings. I'm a guest here, and I'm not even it's not necessarily I'm here because the citizens of Wilkes-Barre would like me to be here, but I'm a guest. I have nothing to do with how the meetings are run or the phone calls that are answered or anything else. Thirdly, you referred to the tree commission and a new tree being planted. That actually is paid for by the city of Wilkes-Barre. I've approved $300 for the purchase and planting of that tree. So I don't know where you're getting the rest of the information from, but I don't know if you raise money. I'm not aware of it. But the fact is,
Downtown.
we're partnering with the downtown partnership committee, and that's where the money's coming from. The city is contributing because we feel it's a necessary thing to do. And also, we just chopped down a tree on Public Square. This is a way of replenishing the tree supply on Public Square. So I'm sort of correcting some of the things that you said by mistake. No disrespect to you, but I just felt that the public should know what's going on as far as the new tree is being planted and where the resources are coming from. They're coming from Larry Newman's organization, and also the citizens of Wilkes-Barre are helping to pay for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi, I'm calling from Wilkes-Barre.
Okay, and your name, please?
My phone number?
Your name. Just your name.
Your name.
Great. My name is Renee, R-A-N-E, Dantone, D-A-N-T-O-N-E.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hi, well, I'm a single mother and a homeowner in the Wilkes-Barre area. I would like to speak on behalf of myself, my family, and the Black and Brown community that we are in very much support of the Citizens Review Board and the in the fashion that it was mentioned in the meeting as a positive and proactive thing. I think the denial of this at this point, or even the delay of it at this point, is a bit of a slap in the face of the Black and Brown community, and I think it can't be done in good faith at this point. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, actually, can I add?
Pardon me?
Also, can I add that I would like to thank Beth McBride for her comments on the victims of police brutality and regarding Black Lives Matter. I hope that she continues to speak up in that fashion.
Okay. Comments? Beth, anybody?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hi, your name and where you're calling from, please?
John Sanofsky, Almond Lane, Wilkes-Barre.
Hi, John. Go ahead.
Hi. Personally, I really think you guys should be, I mean, this meeting I think should have been held outdoors, but at this point, you guys should be having meetings in public. I don't think City Hall would be the right place. I really think all the protesters, perhaps, people are, you know, yearning to be heard. You guys should have a meeting at the square, or an outdoor meeting. Like Sam was saying, have it, you know, you guys should have a meeting before your next scheduled meeting, because you guys haven't really been having full meetings. But something need to see people, you know, people want to be heard. You know, there's protesters every day. You know, you heard of George Floyd, looking up a lot of people. You know, police brutality is a real thing. I also am in favor of citizen review board. I've read it over. Investigatory power, and I think that is the most important thing, is being able to investigate the police and what happened. You know, the allegations against, you know, these people talking about that for years. I think one of the like that would have been able to tell us one thing or another. Like, I don't know if he is guilty or innocent. You know, one thing that nobody in City Hall or the PBA knows anything either. So, you know, he didn't step up to give us any information. You know, we need citizens to actually be able to have investigatory power to watch over the police. I'd like to talk about the experience that I've had, my first interactions with the police. You know, when I was like 14 years old, I started hanging out with kids down South Wilkes-Barre, and we carried book bags everywhere we went. The police would would repeatedly just stop us. The police would stop us to search us. They stopped us to search us so much that it was lucky that we had no warrant with us. His parents had to sit us down and explain, that the police were wrong and what they were doing was wrong, and we had to learn about our rights and, what's the legal search, what isn't the search, what is admissible in court. And I was a 2-year-old child, and I had to learn that because Wilkes-Barre police obviously had the right to just up and search anybody they look at. And but once, we got sat down and explained the rights, for some reason, magically never happened again. So, if somebody can have people like that to talk to and explain things to you, you wouldn't know your rights. I was just lucky that I had smart people around me. But if you have those kind of people around you, you just get your rights taken away by the police and nobody's there. That happened. Gentleman that came in years ago, that was had issues up at the high. Can't remember his name, but that issue right there. That was something that a civilian review board could have reviewed and seen if the police did anything wrong to that gentleman. I think that this happens to black and brown people a lot, and don't realize it. I have to live it. You guys just don't. You need somebody to check the police from time to time. I really hope you guys do that and we do something with investigatory power. We have to be able to investigate. About the Division Street Bridge, I'm happy to see that that's going to get done. But the only reason that the bridge is getting done is because Hanover has the lead on that thing. That's my and one other thing. I've been asking the last few meetings about the police. What does it help us to have the police just sitting in the police cars parked? I just think that's a waste of resources. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? All right. Thank you, John. Okay.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm having a hard time hearing. It seems to be really breaking up. Is it me? Is it just me?
I'm having,
Me too.
Background noise, and it's not coming from here. Nobody's moving here, so I'm not quite sure where it is. Maybe Frank, any ideas?
Have the computer audio high.
Could be coming from.
I have a few people messaging me too.
Oh, okay.
Can I talk?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay. I have a few people messaging me saying they're having difficulty getting through. They're saying that they have to input a number in order to get through to the phone line. I don't know if IT knows anything about that. Does that just happen when the phone line's occupied?
We haven't heard that before. I'm looking at IT right now. We do have some incoming calls. So
Okay.
because the line is busy, you're probably right in that assumption, but okay.
Okay, I think it happened. I did hear a complaint after the last meeting too.
I will be very grateful when we don't have to do this bet much longer. Hopefully, I think we all will be. Okay, Kathy. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
Right now, we do have some incoming calls, but the line is busy, it's probably
Yeah, what's going on, we believe, is people are listening to their computers and calling at the same time, and there is a delay, there's a time lapse, and that's causing some confusion.
Hi, your name? My name is Emily Caballero.
Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Where are you calling from?
Wilkes-Barre.
Okay, go ahead.
Hazel Street.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I've been a resident for about 20 years now. Those that you don't know my name might know my brother's name, Jeremy Soto. This month, 10 months, the hardest of our life. He was killed last year. The worst part, the killer didn't serve so much as one charge. And that leads me to the point of the purpose of my call, and that would be, of course, I want to call about the police review board. I think it's absolutely necessary. I know his name. I know for the most part how it happened, and I know this has nothing to do with the detective or the police officer. My brother was beat, and I know it was to the point that I quote, he bled in his skull so bad that his brain pushed downward, crushing his brain stem, causing irreparable damage. This kid found time to take pictures and post his body unconscious online on social media everywhere. And I'll never see them. He Snapchatted and live streamed from the back of the cruiser, complaining why he was even being questioned. I mean, why did he even have his phone? Why would he search and detain like my brother would have been? My brother's homicide was justified. But my brother really never had a history of being physical. And recent bouts of paranoia that the police brought against him to justify. It was just in a very recent past, which he was seeking treatment for. I worked for Volunteers of America for years, guys. I actually ran the intellectual program for about 2 years. I worked for them for several years with other diagnoses, and I know for a fact that not all diagnoses are violent. I know this. And it's a stereotype that all of them are. And I should be allowed to ask questions. What fact my brother was speaking to? I confirmed it myself. He was killed. I proved it. I got witnesses. This is the day that he had an appointment. He ended up in the ER. It was a no-show. I told the police that. Here, no one's allowing me to talk. The police won't even allow me, wouldn't even return my call. I'm not allowed to ask questions. I found out from the internet that my brothers ruled that I should be able to ask questions. My mother was able to ask questions. My mother had to go to the precinct 2 weeks after we posted up because she tried to press charges. Because she got no answer from anyone. Had no idea what was going on. I was able to come out. Because I could ask questions. Because I thought. I didn't know exactly in the words I am right now. I'm passionate. Because I'm a murderer. Because I'm a murderer. My baby brother.
Emily, if I can stop you just for a moment. First of all, we're all very sorry for what occurred. Sorry for your loss and what you went through. A lot of times it's frustrating when things go through the system, and we all know this, and the district attorney has to approve charges and things go to court, and sometimes they don't turn out the way we expect them to, or you do too. It can be very difficult, but it is the process that we do have. You mentioned that.
I understand that process, sir.
Yeah.
But when you are denied the opportunity to get a phone call, when your mother is then when I go in person to these precincts, asking to find out what is happening, when my mother has to go in person 2 weeks after pulling the plug from her son, asking questions, there's a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, the only thing I can recommend that you do, if you do want to come in and talk to somebody about it here, come in and see somebody in the police department. Maybe they can look into what, I don't know how long ago this occurred. I'm not familiar with the particulars of it, but it sounds like there is some questions that you do have that maybe that can be answered. And we don't want to go back and forth. You're certain.
I have family that serves in the NYPD.
You're more than welcome to come in if it's a Wilkes-Barre case and talk to somebody here about it. You call first and see if they can meet with you. I'm sure they can, and maybe they can answer some of your questions for you. Okay, thank you. Hi, good afternoon. Name and where you're calling from, please.
Hi, Jason Carr, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Hi. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to call in and express my support for the ordinance that Beth Gilbert is presenting today. Looking at the overall picture within the city of Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County, there is a great deal and amount of corruption throughout the county. And thinking about the indiscretions that the police department has incurred over the last, let's say, 5 years, it's a wise choice to have an advisor and be able to ask questions openly. I know last year when Chief Coffey was in the city council meeting, I had the opportunity while he was sitting there to talk about the pension system and how it's used by the police department, which is part of the reason, I believe, in my opinion, bankrupting the city of Wilkes-Barre. And the best that the chief could do is put his head down and look at the floor. And with an advisory committee, maybe we could sit down at a table and talk as a group and understand what's happening financially with the city, along with issues regarding Black Lives Matter, white people, Chinese, Indian, all races. It's for everyone, for the entire city. So I think it makes a lot of sense to me. As well, I recall a story. I recall actually speaking to Councilman Valesco approximately 2 years ago, when I had noticed that I almost never see a Wilkes-Barre policeman pull over anyone. And 2 or 3 times I asked Councilman Valesco, why don't the police pull people over? There's constant violations throughout the city. And Mr. Councilman Valesco had indicated to me that the chief of police told him that the police are afraid to pull people over from New York and New Jersey. And I've been thinking about it for the last 2 years. That's a lot of the reason why they do what they want. They come in, they make Wilkes-Barre their home, violate the laws, create a lot of trouble for residents, multiple traffic violations, and nothing's really being done about it. So those are questions with an advisory committee I see which would be helpful to better understand work within the community, what their apprehensions may be, and have as well. Let me say this: three different. Some of my tenants over the years have called the police. I've been there. The police have come. To the policeman's credit, it did show they were taken to the limit by my tenants, and the police were called racist. They were called all different names. It was completely out of control. 3 different occasions, and I could say that on every occasion I was very impressed by how the individual policemen handled the situation. They were very professional. They could have taken it a couple different ways, but they always gave the benefit of the doubt to the individual, even though they were acting out against the police, giving them a very difficult time. As they're trained to do, they dissolved the situation and, did the right thing. When they could have taken a different approach and probably arrested every tenant. So, to their credit, I've seen personally 3 different occasions that they've done the right thing regarding the minority community. Thank you so much.
Okay. Comments, council? Questions?
Mr. Chairman, that conversation I don't recall at all. Will say this, it's a flat out lie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, the pension system question that he brought up, I mean, obviously the Auditor General, you all know, is looking at pension system reform across the Commonwealth. That's something that is kind of out of our hands a little bit. And it was good to hear the compliments regarding the police and the way they handle calls. And I think that our advisory committee can also look at those types of responses as well. And maybe there's some things that maybe we can do a little bit better, but that sounded like it went well to me. Okay. Hi, your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi, my name is Eileen Dorsey, and I'm calling from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for your time tonight. I just wanted to call and voice your neighboring city's support for the immediate enactment of a citizens review board based on public consensus with complete transparency and community oversight. This is an excellent way to improve community trust in the police department, and it's quite imperative. Also, thank you to Councilmember McBride for an eloquent delivery of our sentiment. That is all.
Okay, I know that you have an excellent police department in Scranton. I'm not sure whether they have an advisory board or review board or anything like that. Would you happen to know that?
No, but I'm very interested to see what we do have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Hi, good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
Name is Tony Thomas from Wilkes-Barre.
Go ahead, sir.
I wanted to speak to the formation of the Citizen Review Board. We're at a moment in the history of our city where action is clearly needed to address concerns that citizens have with law enforcement in Wilkes-Barre and to repair the relationship between law enforcement and our communities. We cannot begin to repair this lack of trust until there is transparent accountability. I believe that the formation of a citizen review board would be a major step towards that goal. Online and before council, and clearly here, speakers prior to me tonight, citizens have made and brought up times where they have experienced frustrations with addressing concerns with the city regarding law enforcement. I believe having a review board in place to receive and openly review these things is an area of accountability that we need. Would stress, though, that if we were to form a body that has investigative powers, that the city ensures that any individuals working towards any sort of investigation should have some sort of specialized training in their career background for reviewing personnel complaints. I do appreciate Chief Coffey for involving officers in our crime watch meetings, but it's quite apparent that, you know, we still have a ways to go to having a dialogue with Black people and other people of color in the city of Wilkes-Barre. As mentioned before, this is the first time that the idea of a review board had surfaced, and it shouldn't have taken this long, but we're at a moment where we can't wait. And I do agree that it should not make this a rush job, that we should ensure that everything is done correctly and that everything is robust with the legislation. But it's the duty of Wilkes-Barre City Council to write and review ordinances. I'm glad that this conversation is occurring, but we cannot lose focus that one of the main jobs of City Council is to legislate. So I do implore Council to act in a timely and meaningful way with this proposal. I'm confident that that there will be progress made. And I do appreciate Mayor Brown announcing formation of his board, but I do believe that we need a separate entity that's actually codified into city code. I also wanted to thank Chief Coffey for their work regarding the fireworks ordinance. Over here in the North End, recently we've had a lot of issues, particularly on the weekends, with folks setting off very loud fireworks quite late into the night, past 11 p.m. on some occasions, and it's certainly disturbing to people in this area. I also wanted to thank Sam Troy and Mayor Brown and everybody involved with trying to get this tree planted on public sewer to commemorate members of Wilkes-Barre City who have been essential workers and medical and healthcare workers in the city. At some point, I do believe that I would like to see council, meet with Sam and I and other members of the Shade Tree Commission to discuss ways that we can do some more improvements in terms of greenery and doing green spaces. I know Councilwoman McBride has worked on community gardens. I believe this is an opportunity. The Shade Tree Commission can help throughout the city, as well as partnering perhaps with Mr. Griffin's Blight Committee and to really help out on these the various cleanups in the city and also maintaining the health of the trees in the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Comments?
Yes, Mr. Barrett, may I?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Marconi.
Mr. Thomas, just to let you know, I have not received any complaints as of yet on fireworks. I just want to let you know, I'm not doubting you, but I haven't received any complaints. If I did or if I do, I will certainly report them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on the ordinance question, our attorney is here and he's well versed in this. When we do bring an ordinance before council or before the city, actually, we may need to make sure that it goes through several different steps. They're vetted for legal review, to make sure that they're legal and they are enforceable and they're workable with the different departments as well. So even before it actually comes before the body as a whole, proposed ordinances go through those different steps. So it is a lot of work. Beth knows it's a process that we go through that can sometimes be time consuming. It's just not a matter of us bringing an ordinance before everybody and voting on it. So to sort of answer Mr. Thomas's concerns, it does take a little bit of work to get an ordinance through. Okay, Kathy. Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please?
Hi, my name is Josh Hughes. I'm calling from
Who's the name again?
Josh Hughes, and from where, sir?
Wilkes-Barre.
Josh Hughes, Wilkes-Barre. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
All right, well, first off, I want to thank everyone who shared their personal experiences today with police violence and racism in this country. It's something I can't possibly understand on a personal level, and I can't ever express the trauma. I want to thank everyone. But I am a concerned citizen, and I'm here today to speak about the various proposals for the Civilian Review Board. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. We hear you.
In spirit, board is a great idea. I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm glad we're finally having this conversation. But it's not nearly enough in its current form. So I want to share with you some research and share with you some policy suggestions that you're going to have to grapple with if we want to actually make real change. So recently, this quote from the head of the ACLU's Justice Division stuck with me, and I've been trying to figure out if it's even worth organizing for a review board. And he said, arguably a weak civilian review board is worse than no civilian review board because it gives the illusion of independent accountability, but actually provides little to no accountability. A weak civilian review board can lead to an increase in community resentment as residents go to the board to seek redress, yet end up with little. In addition to this take, there's more radical organizations like Critical Resistance who would actually say that a review board is just a Band-Aid fix. It's something that only legitimizes the current structure of policing, and it contributes to the overfunding of already bloated police budgets. So put simply, I want to convey to you that a review board is the bare minimum, and if it's done wrong, it can be dangerous. All over this country, there are protesters who are literally risking their lives during a global pandemic to combat police brutality and fight for dramatic reallocation of police resources into other systems of community safety. We owe it to them to fight for more. A review board did not stop George Floyd from being murdered. The Minneapolis Review Board was actually praised by the U.S. Justice Department in the early 2000s for, quote, dramatic improvement, despite having few mechanisms to report and discipline potential problem officers. Councilman Barrett, I heard you say you think reform is going to trickle down. You think the federal government is going to help? That Donald Trump and Bill Barr are going to help? People don't care about reform, and reform isn't even enough. All things considered, for this to work, it has to be progressive review boards in the country, and you're all going to have to fight tooth and nail for it. And if you do, I'll support you, get as many young people as possible to support you. And if you don't, I'll do the exact opposite. So I want to introduce some suggestions. My friend and I, Isaiah McGinty, we based a lot of this on the ACLU's assessment, as well as reports from the U.S. Justice Department. And these are our guidelines. I'm going to talk fast now because I'm running out of time, but I will meet with any of you and forward this to any of you who are interested. So one, the review board should be staffed with civilians, not former or current police officers or immediate relatives of police officers. Two, the review board should be able to independently investigate citizens' claims and internal police investigations, not just one or the other. The board should also conduct broad audits of underlying policy that may lead to misconduct. The board should have strong power. The majority of the board is not appointed by the mayor, city council, or the police chief, because these boards very easily become politicized over time. The majority of the board members should be comprised of members selected by local civil rights organizations, for example, the NAACP. The board minority, on the other hand, it can be elected, it can be appointed by the mayor, whatever. But regardless of the exact composition, Wilkes-Barre's poorest and most police neighborhoods must be proportionally represented. 5, the board must have disciplinary authority. A range of disciplinary actions should be decided upon by a pre-negotiated matrix established in negotiation between the board and the police department. The police department's final disciplinary decision would be bound by the consequence of this agreement. What good is a board that can't actually enforce anything? 6, the board's budget is tied to a fixed percentage of the police department's budget in order to insulate the board in the wake of politically unpopular decisions. We want no increase in the police department's budget, and if an increase has to happen, it should be solely for the implementation and maintenance of this board. mental health services, and other forms of community safety. 7, the board should have a mechanism for filing warnings about problems. 8, residents should be able to easily file complaints online, in person, over the phone, through email, through fax. The board should also hold a monthly public meeting where anyone can come and complain. 9, members should be paid a small monthly stipend. And again, maybe fewer members with higher wages would be better than more members with smaller wages. That's all I got. Thank you for your time. Thank you to all the people protesting, and Black Lives Matter.
Thank you for your input, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council.
I just want to thank Josh for taking the time to call and for the research that he's obviously done on this as well. It's greatly appreciated, and I'll definitely be connecting with you. Thank you.
And Josh, if you could email us the research, that would be appreciated.
Yes, Josh, if you would, please.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, Kathy. While we're waiting, we're waiting to see if there are any calls coming in. We have one other general item that was held in this today, I believe today, maybe yesterday. And the question is why, I'm not sure who it's coming from. All I have is an email address. Why are there no Black police officers, firefighters, and minority members of this administration? This is a huge problem. Fix it. Comments? There may be minority members of the administration. I'm not sure of the employee makeup of all the departments, Mayor, but I know that we, when we do advertise and recruit, we go to great efforts to make sure that we are reaching to everyone.
We do, Councilman. We don't elect, we put out the opening citywide and actually more than citywide, they're publicized. As a matter of fact, we have 3 openings right now in the Wilkes-Barre City Police Department, and we'll be holding testing for those positions. And I ask anyone who's interested, please apply for those open positions. Also, when fire department positions are open, we ask people to apply for them. Now, they have to go through the same process, and there's testing, and physical and written testing that's necessary to go through it. So open to everyone, and we're going to continue to be fair, and whoever wants to apply, they'll go through the same process.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Kathy? Good afternoon, name and where you're calling from, please.
Hi, my name is Lois Grimm, and I'm calling from Wilkes-Barre.
I'm sorry.
What's your name again?
Lois Grimm.
Okay, thank you, Lois. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm calling about the Citizens Oversight Board. But first, I just wanted to tell you that I had to call 35 times over the last hour and 17 minutes to get through. It took a long time. So if these meetings have to continue this way, I do think that you guys should find a better way to take public comment. Secondly, the main reason I'm calling, like I said, is about the Citizens Oversight Board. And I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, this is the issues that we're facing in our city and our country can't be solved in a one-shot way. It needs to address the concerns of our citizens, especially in the communities that are adversely affected by bad policing in multiple ways. I also wanted to address something that Councilman Barrett said about reforms coming from the federal and state government. Number one, as another caller said, I don't trust Donald Trump or Bill Barr to care about the needs of the underserved and ignored citizens in our country. And along with that, I'd like to ask, why should we wait for the federal or state government to do something when we have intelligent people right here in this city that we can all work together and we can be proactive and we can be an example to the rest of the country? And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Lois. I'm sorry you had trouble getting through. We're hopeful that this is pretty much the end of our way of operating as far as meetings are concerned. We hope to be back in the City Hall, at least in part, by our next meeting. And any comments from council on Lois' concerns? No? Okay, thank you. Kathy, anything? We have one other piece of correspondence that came in from the Police Retirees Association. I'll read it into the record under general discussion. And it's addressed to council. Recently, I learned, and this is coming from retired Captain Robert Mitchell. I learned that some members of the Wilkes-Barre City Council are considering creating a police review board. I don't see any need for any such board. The officers have been performing well. They're well trained in police procedures. Every year, all officers must be recertified. They go through in-service training in subjects such as use of force, crimes code, vehicle code, first aid and CPR, firearms qualifications and classes on training, understanding different cultures. Sensitivity training is also given. Tests are given, and the officers must pass the test to be certified as a police officer. However, I would be in favor of additional training in different subjects if necessary. I'm a retired police officer, went through the same training. I served the city of Wilkes-Barre for almost 34 years as a patrolman, detective, captain of detectives. Was also a member of the training commission for almost 16 years, was chairman of the in-service training committee. Commission sets up training programs which the officers must follow, including basic training, in-service training, and other types of training from time to time, including the certification of officers, certifies the training schools, and certifies the instructors. There are other agencies who can have oversight over the Wilkes-Barre Police Department if an officer is accused of a crime or other wrongdoing. Those agencies such as the District Attorney's Office and the Attorney General's Office. It should start, however, with Wilkes-Barre Police Department internal investigations. Captain Mitchell says he sees no relationship between what has been going on in Minnesota and here in Wilkes-Barre. Not one officer has kneeled on a suspect's neck. A police review board would cause great harm to all the police department. If something is not broken, don't try to fix it. Signed, retired Captain of Detectives Robert Mitchell. Comment? Okay, Kathy. Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
Hi, Mark Schaefer, Wilkes-Barre.
Go ahead, Mr. Schaefer.
Hi, good to go?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, I just wanted to reiterate what a previous caller said and kind of respond to that email. He talks about sensitivity and diversity training. As the previous caller with all the research mentioned, Minneapolis was a national example of a great police force that fully embraced all the reforms that were pushed for after Ferguson. They did all the diversity training, they did de-escalation training, they did unconscious bias training. So if you're proposing that for Wilkes-Barre as the solution to this, you're just going to get Minneapolis again. All these reforms were tried in Minneapolis and none of them worked. You need actual accountability. Otherwise, there's no reason for a cop to want to do this to stop doing it. My concern about the advisory board would be that it would have no actual authority. Since it's not law and it's just appointed by the mayor, it would be the sort of thing where if the mayor wants to listen to them, and no offense to the mayor, this could go for, he's not going to be mayor forever. Maybe you get a next mayor who has absolutely zero concern about this issue. If it's an ordinance, what's stopped from next mayor from saying, I don't really need advice from citizens, I can handle the police on my own, and getting rid of the board? Do you need an ordinance or some sort of legislation to make sure that it actually has power and isn't just doing whatever it wants? I just really want to reiterate to anyone that's concerned that people might think that this is a cure-all. Obviously, a review board is not a cure-all. It should really just be a first step, sort of a bare minimum that a lot of places adopted in the 70s and have had some progress, but obviously not enough. There's a large amount of reform that has to go on top of this. I just want to add, as the last email said, that this would hurt police or that somehow it would interfere with means, as the ordinance pretty clearly states, that if the complaints get reviewed before they're even considered. So if it's something facile and pointless, it'll get dismissed out of hand. So any police officer has no reason reason to fear oversight unless they're doing something wrong. And if they're doing something wrong, they deserve oversight. And to the claims that we don't need this here, I first off would like to reiterate that Officer Collins exists. We had a local police officer who got arrested for allegedly repeatedly sexually abusing people. And we've had countless people come before council and say they knew about Collins. Everyone knows about Collins. And that would be exactly the kind of thing that a review board could stop. In addition, I think anyone who thinks there's no issues should go to one of these marches and listen to the people talk. There are infinite stories of abuse by Wilkes-Barre police of people in the area. Obviously, not all cops are bad, but again, if you're a good cop, you have absolutely no reason to fear a review board. If he did nothing wrong, nothing bad's going to happen to you. This is like saying that having courts is a threat for citizens because they could possibly be brought up on charges. As for the idea that the A or the AG already have the authority to do this, they're already covering the entire county, the entire state. This would facilitate bringing up concerns of citizens, and being a civilian board, it would have direct ties to the community, whereas the AG, I mean, they have no connection to Luzerne County. They almost always come from Pennsylvania or Philly. Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. They have zero concern about Wilkes-Barre. The DA has a lot to deal with in the entire county. They can't handle every police abuse claim. You need citizen involvement to look into and recommend investigations and forward them on. A long history and a lot of research on the topic of why AGs don't necessarily, or DAs necessarily, investigate police abuse. And a lot of it indicates that we should separate the investigations from each other because the AGs depend on the local police forces to actually get convictions. So they're scared for relationships that they have with local police departments if they investigate. And there's a long history in this country of police departments retaliating to AGs and other people who investigate them, look for corruption. We need to make sure that we have civilian oversight. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Comments? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know we received some other letters from email. Are you going to read those as well?
I have two I've just read in. Read it. And the mayor had one that was specifically addressed to him, not the council.
Oh, okay.
That one was addressed directly to the mayor. That wasn't addressed to. Good afternoon. Your name, where you're calling from, please?
Angel Massachusetts.
Hi, Angel. Go ahead.
Hi. Congratulations on your appointment. And,
Thank you.
I'll be pretty much talking about the whole policing issue. And first, I want to thank everyone for actually who participated in the protest, for participating, because this is something that has been brought to my attention since me working with the youth of the NAECC under I Matter campaign. Wilkes-Barre City, as I said, through many different city council meetings when the police department was introduced, there is a lot of that. You know, they're not using they're using pepper spray. I've literally seen them in the past handcuff someone, put them on the carpet, and pepper spray them. So it's a lot that don't when you're not being trained in black. And it's so much so that, you know, I've written a letter about the Wilkes-Barre Police Department to the U.S. Department of Justice. I've contacted the FBI on abuse and sloppy police work for color of law abuse. But my thing is that I have many different stories I can tell you. I'm not going to put it all over this meeting because there's not enough time to actually cover the incident. Because me being the acclimated to Wilkes-Barre, I'm from a majority of black city, and I moved here as a minority over 25, 6, 8 years ago.
him when he was in office. I threatened the DA, and nothing has been done. So, you know, I had to go to the Department of Justice, and yet I had no answers. And we're talking 10 years ago. So I can just imagine, and then with this whole Collins thing going through the courthouse, please be ready. Because when that comes out and you have to review the cases he came in contact with, there's going to be head spinning.
We're losing you, you're losing your volume there.
No, I really, so, you know, if there's a time where I can meet with you guys where it does not violate the sunshine rule, I will meet with you personally or in small groups. But other than that, I have nothing else to say. I am speechless.
Okay. Questions, comments? Thank you for calling. I don't know if we have any calls coming in, but I just wanted to say, in listening to all this, and obviously I have a little bit of a background in law enforcement, having come from this department. I am extremely proud of the work that they do day in and day out, the members of this department, and I know you all are as well. It's unfortunate the actions of a few that tarnish this profession clearly across the country. No one in law enforcement is condoning what occurred. You can't defend the undefendable, totally wrong, and it needs to be addressed, and it brings to light many other issues. But by and large, this department responds to hundreds of thousands of incidents a year where they make contact with individuals. And 99% of those contacts go without issues whatsoever. Talk about unfunding, defunding, dismantling. We've all heard those words. We see about that on the news. My personal opinion, and I'll voice it here, it's totally the opposite of what we need to be doing. We need to be behind our departments, but also we need to make sure that our departments are operating correctly, properly, well-trained, well-equipped, and well-disciplined. I have the utmost faith in our police administration here. It doesn't mean that we can't do things better. Of course we can. Every one of us can in our own professions. I just want to reiterate how very proud I am of our department, and we need to ensure that we do everything we can for them and our community as well. So a lot of wonderful dialogue here. I'm sure that there'll be reform. I'm sure that there will be change, and I'm sure that we will have a part in this. I want to commend the mayor and the police administration, the police union for meeting on this very issue and coming to an agreement that we are going to start with a citizens advisory group and go from there. And I'm sure that a lot of wonderful things will come out of it and better allow the department to serve the community. Anyone else? Closing comments? Tony?
I just wanted to say, I think it's important for people to know if you couldn't get through on the phone, you know, we're all available 24 hours a day. People can call us, the city council people. Our phone numbers are in the city calendar, on the city's website, email. And so please constantly continue to communicate with us and to have a productive dialogue.
Okay. All right, Kathy, any calls? Okay, we're going to do about 1 minute or so, give somebody a chance. I know it's difficult getting calls in, but like we said, we were all hoping that we can move out of this conference room and move back into City Hall and hopefully be a little bit more accessible. But as you just said, we are all accessible, and we've all gotten calls and communications, and we'll continue to do that. But we do appreciate the support of the city and everyone here. Frank, thank you for helping us through all this as well. Your staff, much appreciated. Okay, we don't have any incoming calls. We don't have any further business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Stay safe.
Thank you. Good evening.